All right. It's NASCAR time on Prime Sports Network for a Tuesday. How about that? We get to come back
Back on Tuesday.
Yeah. We've had between the rain delays and some scheduling conflicts, we've had a lot of.
Oh, there goes my seat.
What happened?
I said, there goes my seat. There we go.
Okay.
I was
one of those deals? You shrunk?
Yeah, I clicked. No, I actually hit with my, like the back of my leg, the lever that
And
moves
you
it up
shrunk
and
a
down.
foot?
I shrunk. Yeah, I was trying to move it up, and I hit the lever, and I shrunk. Went the other way.
We'll go with that.
I'm back though.
So we're back on Tuesdays, and we have one more road course race to go for the regular season, and then Daytona. So next week we will update you as a little bit. We'll have another week, of course. That hopefully, if all goes well, we will do a live show. Now, is that a night race?
It is.
It's a Saturday night?
It's scheduled night race, but I think the last 3 years have had weather interruptions. So,
yep. So if that happens, we have any weather, all bets are off for us doing another live deal. But hopefully we won't have that. And we'll be able to finally get one of these live broadcasts in. Could be fun. Could be a lot of fun with a playoff stake on the line. But that's next week. We have a road course race to recap and one to preview. And before we do that, let's get some house cleaning in here, because we have, not only do we have these Thursday shows, but we also had some time constraints. So we hadn't been able to get to a lot of other stuff, some newsworthy items. We didn't really talk too much about the new Xfinity deal, the new TV deal for Xfinity. So talk about how this is going to help the sport.
Yeah, it's a massive. I mean, we're into the hundreds of millions of dollars per year deal there for them, which starts in 2025. Which I think, as Denny Hamlin noted, it equates to basically $75 million after all said and done per year, which is big for a series like that.
Yeah.
But it goes to show, and people are complaining that it's on the CW, which I get it. It's not a major sports network, but they're trying to be. They've got some ACC deals with some football and basketball on that's come into there. They're also trying to get other sports towards that direction. So landing in Xfinity is a big deal. That documentary for the Indy 500 that was there, the 100 Days to Indy, that was on the CW. So they're trying. I think it goes to show if the Xfinity series can get reportedly around $125 million per season.
Yeah.
What's the Cup Series going to get? I mean, this is a massive pay promotion, we'll say. And then the Cup Series with their deal coming up, it goes to show with the CW too, which I got sidetracked there. To come back to it, you could stream it. You could watch it on cable. There's plenty of options. It's 100% available to however you want to consume it. But it is a risk because it is the CW. But it also opens an avenue for the Cup Series, because we heard Amazon was up wanting to bid into that. Netflix, you open that door by going to the CW because you could stream stuff.
Absolutely.
So it says a lot. I think it says more almost to the IndyCar side, because if the Xfinity series, and they get around the same ratings as IndyCar, sometimes a little bit more, sometimes a little less. But if they get a deal like they just got, IndyCar has the Indy 500.
Yeah.
Xfinity series doesn't have that. IndyCar reportedly 20, 25, 30 million a year for NBC Sports. If Xfinity's getting over 100 million per year, they get the jump that IndyCar can now get, because the CW with their docu-series with the Indy 500, and now they got Xfinity. You know, their end game is not to just this is the CW. I'm saying their end game is not to just we're at Xfinity only, a few college basketball and football games for the ACC. They've got bigger plans. Maybe the IndyCar plays in with that. I think it goes with IndyCar and Xfinity kind of lead into each other. They could help each other out too. So I think it's a big deal. It could lead other teams to the Xfinity because there's now a bigger piece of the TV pie. So yeah, it's a good thing for the sport to do that.
Well, maybe they'll be able to change the starting time of races if there's weather. You can send people to the streaming.
And they've also talked about because Xfinity is more of it's the Cup Series AAA. It's a AAA version of the Cup Series. A lot of Saturday night races, especially in the fall, because they said, hey, look, we could run college football and have a college football lead-in to the Xfinity Series primetime because we could do that.
Why not?
It's not like you're handicapped to NBC. This time of year, like the Cup Series and Xfinity Series are all on USA or NBC right now.
Sure.
Well, this is going to go to the CW. It's a completely different network. NASCAR is going to run it. It's in-house. They got a production building down there in Concord. So plenty of positives to go with that.
And NASCAR Cup, when are we getting a decision? When do they have to make a decision on a new deal?
I bet it comes off season because it doesn't start same way 2025.
Okay.
Next year will be the final year of the deal, but it's got to come soon because the charter is kind of tied up in that because they're wanting a bigger piece of the pie. And if they get an even bigger deal, which we've talked about in the past on this show, how people think NASCAR might not get as big of a deal. It's the opposite. They're going to get a bigger deal. So it's just where do they go? So that's up, but it's got to be somewhat soon because next year is the final year of this contract, and they're going to want to start planning for if it's a new network. Let's say Amazon does get in for 6 races. They're trying to get a summer deal with them. Then you're going to want to start promoting that. You want to use next year to promote that you're going to move to this network. So
yep.
So yeah, I would say. Probably, I would hope by Christmas we know where NASCAR is going to be in 2025 and beyond. And NASCAR, I mean the Cup Series, because we know obviously the Xfinity Series is in one network. And I do want to add with that, it's starting to go because in NASCAR, the Cup Series, we see the first half of the year on Fox and the second half of the year on NBC Sports. The Truck Series is only on Fox Sports Family, so they're on Fox or FS1 only. You don't find them anywhere else. The Xfinity Series is going to only be on the CW.
Okay.
You're not going to find. So
good.
The Cup Series isn't the only one that you're kind of cross promoting there between multiple networks. Do they look at one network?
Why
because
not?
Does it get confusing?
Yes, it does.
So I think that's something that could be in play. I mean, your other two are on one network. Why not your top?
Absolutely.
Your top series?
Yes. So that would be a good idea.
A lot of underlying takeaways, positive underlying takeaways from this deal.
And speaking of weather, and potentially having the opportunity to move races up. We didn't have much time to talk about it last week, but again, it just doesn't, I don't understand. I really don't. I mean, you looked at the weather, whatever it was, a couple weeks ago. What was it? The Michigan race, right?
Yeah, Michigan race.
And everybody knew what was coming early in the day. Everybody knew that this was going to be a very distinct possibility, a probability. And if you just started earlier, you could have finished the race. And they won't touch it. And that means that it's like, now I don't know what their deal is with the network that they have their package with now. Now maybe they're not allowed to. I don't know. But whatever new package they do, this has got to be part of it. They have to have the flexibility to do what golf does and to say, if we need to move the race up, now we have a streaming service deal. Hey, that's what the streaming service is for. Go buy the streaming service. You won't miss half the race. We won't tape delay it. There's so many options. Because what is it? The article that came out from, who was it? Jonathan Fields?
Oh, Jonathan, yeah.
From the racing experts. 17 of 25 race weekends affected by weather. And some of them with delays and others postponed races. There were 4 of them, I believe, so far this year. So that's crazy. And that's all because they won't move. And again, they starting these races late in the summer. It just does not. I don't want to hear any more about West Coast nonsense. That's total BS. That is a BS. Nobody is following up from that answer from us. There's more that meets the eye than we need to start later because of the West Coast. I don't believe it.
No, I mean IndyCar's proven that just a couple weeks ago, Nashville. We talked about this on the IndyCar show. They started at green flag was 12:30 Eastern, 11:30 Central, and they had either the second or third highest
Really?
rating that they've had on NBC. So shows they can pull it. If they're pulling 1.2 million, imagine what NASCAR is going to pull. That
There's nothing else
NASCAR could
on.
pull. Yeah,
You
and
got
I
three-man basketball or I don't know, whatever the hell they have on it. It used to be the old days. You used to put on TV on the afternoons on Saturday and Sunday. There would always be something on at 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Now you got to wait till 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock every single weekend.
and I don't know why they don't use again. You can't just do this because I'm sure it's in language and contracts and all that. But like you said, the future deal start at noon and aired on Peacock, and then go to NBC at 3 o'clock for your and combine the numbers. And I bet you it's going to be higher. And then you can sell the streaming service for this diehard. I bet a lot of you diehards will pay $4.99 a month to get your new NASCAR start. That was so much better
Why
than
not?
it would be for plus. It should be a requirement. If the track doesn't have lights, you cannot start a race at 3:30. You're just
Chicago.
We talked about this. Yeah, it just
How dumb was
doesn't
that?
work. Yeah, it's and I get in Michigan in this standpoint, even starting earlier, it rained. They weren't going to be able to start earlier. But in theory, if it was like, because we see Pocono, there's been windows earlier, and NASCAR's rule for those that don't know is because of fans coming to the race, it's in their rules that they can't move the start time within 24 hours of the scheduled start time. So in theory, if your race is green flag at 3:30, up until 3:29 on Saturday, you can move the race.
I think that's more than enough time to get to get a forecast in.
Yeah, and I get because I get that like, well, if somebody's driving to the race, you don't want to like, well, hey, change of plans, we're starting at 9 a.m.
Sure.
However, that person, if there's a threat of rain, may not be driving to the race anyways. So it's a twofold. So it's like, I have a feeling nobody's like, I'm going to drive 4 states away and go to a NASCAR race tomorrow. They're probably already there.
Yeah.
That's a long way to go. So I feel if the track doesn't have lights and the rules got to be, you got to start by noon or 1 East Coast time.
I just wish that we always say
noon,
start
or I'd
race.
say noon or 1 local to that track. Because I get a West Coast track. If you don't have like, well, you can't start noon Eastern on West Coast. Noon or 1 o'clock locally makes the most sense. I think you should start up sooner anyways. And I think you do away with the 24-hour rule. You should have the leeway to move it up. You've got streaming services now you can throw the race on. And you could always air it on the big network later. It's not going to spoil because if it's the same streaming service, like I use Peacock because that's NBC's, what do they care? You just add the ratings up. If you add them up, it equals the same. In theory, should be a higher number anyways. But yeah, these late start times the early ones are working for IndyCar. You got to think if it's working for them. Granted, their fan base is a lot of East Coast, Midwest. It's more the Eastern time zone fan base. But there's still West Coast fans that watch too. So if it works for them, it's going to work for NASCAR. So yeah, it just like this weekend again. It's a 3:30
every
start.
week. I don't even look anymore.
And I haven't looked, but I don't know I haven't looked at the weather forecast yet. But you're at Watkins Glen. If what happens if you get lightning again and it's delayed, and now you're back on Monday again, because it seems NASCAR comes to town, they bring the rain. I mean, it rained here in Indy last week on Saturday. Wasn't really supposed to rain that much, and it did. So
yeah,
you got to plan for that.
Yeah, it drives you crazy. It just really does. So let us know what you guys think. If you agree, disagree. If you have any, you might disagree because of, enlighten us. Let us know. And we'd appreciate that in the comment section. You could also join us on Discord, our motorsports Discord channel. There you could talk to us anytime you like, ask questions anytime you like. We can have conversations post-qualifying and practice, and that's going to be very important, which we'll get into for this week's race. One of the most important qualifying sessions of the season takes place before the race on Sunday. So we'll get into that. I also want to talk about Noah Gragson because we haven't talked about him. We really haven't talked about him much at all. And, of course, he's had a very disappointing season. And so, yeah. So, explain exactly what happened and what is going on.
Yeah, so there was already some turmoil going on with him there.
Why?
He's the results weren't there, which I side in him on this one because the results haven't been in that car
Yeah.
even last year.
Yeah.
They're struggling, and he's a rookie driver, so I don't blame all that on him because I don't see much of a difference between this year and last year with that car. And Eric Jones is his teammate, and it's not like he was setting the world
No.
ablaze for most of the season either. So, but there was some dysfunction there. He's pretty outspoken in general, so he could have been that next polarizing driver. People love to
Yeah.
hate. Either love him or you hate him. But it also ruffles some feathers. So I heard that the team was already talking about making a move for next season already. The name I heard attached to it was John Hunter Nemechek was supposed to possibly go to that seat, which now even more so opens that door, which I'll tie that in a second. But before the Michigan race, this was Saturday a couple weekends ago, before qualifying, it was unveiled that he liked an Instagram post that people could have taken offense to, which I get. It's kind of like, hey, you're going to suspend somebody over liking a post, but he probably should have been smarter about what he's liking on there where people could see. And the team just thought, look, the results aren't there. He's already this. I can see where this would be bad. Let's just go away for a couple weeks. Just
Okay.
we'll just suspend you. NASCAR got wind. They saw it. Like, all right, suspended indefinitely. Do the sensitivity training. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
I think Gregson kind of saw the writing on the wall and was like, I'm out of here. Why delay the inevitable? Let's just cut ties now.
That's what Noah said?
Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I'm out of here. So both sides mutually, I think it was one of those Gregson saw it, the team saw it just prior to Indy last week. Let's part ways.
Okay.
So that opens the door. I've always, like I said, I always heard Nemechek was kind of that top driver to come in. And I feel like, well, why would Nemechek want to go there? Well, it's because Toyota, he went to the Cup route, came back to the trucks with KBM, worked up through the Gibbs kind of path, like, oh, I can be in the running for a Gibbs seat. Well, Truex just keeps coming back. Here he's coming back next year. So that affects, there's nowhere for him to go up into.
Okay.
And running another season in Xfinity probably doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So what I heard from a good source just this past weekend, we're talking Saturday, that pretty much going to be Nemechek in that 42 seat. Unless something changes here soon, he's probably the path. I heard Gregson was supposed to replace, they were almost going to swap. He was going to go back to the Xfinity series with John Hunter Nemechek's ride with Gibbs. And he was going to be the guy that was going to be tapped to replace Truex whenever he stepped away. So,
Gregson.
Yes.
Okay.
So now I don't know how much this changes things. I don't know if this image now, if this changes those plans. But from what I heard, Gregson was going to be in the 20 seat next year and then going to be, whenever Truex decided to walk away, the 19 seat. Because you got to think, too, anybody remember what Gregson's sponsor was in the Xfinity Series?
Who was
the car? Bass Pro.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Who's the sponsor on the 19 car? Bass Pro. They really like him. It was going to be a team.
Really, isn't that really all that matters? Like Eric Almirola?
So we'll see what ends up happening.
How bad was the like?
It was a pretty insensitive post. It was.
Does that bother diehard NASCAR fans?
No.
Okay.
I don't think diehards it's going to affect.
All right, that'll go away.
Yeah, I think that was smart of him to go, and that's what I think the team thought too. Just
restart. Away. Yeah, everybody.
I mean, it's on the. I mean, he didn't say the word, but it's along the lines of Larson, and look where Larson is now.
Exactly, he's fine.
It's kind of where I'm getting at. Yeah. I'm not condoning it. I'm just saying the facts of where it's at. Yeah. So we'll see if Gibbs if that path is still there.
Okay.
But I heard that. I heard Carson Hocevar was in the running for the junior motorsports seat. I heard don't think it probably won't. It could happen. I heard Hocevar is going to run that 42 this year on tracks that correspond with the truck in the Cup Series. So that
Okay.
42 that Gregson was driving, don't be shocked if Carson Hocevar is in that seat for the corresponding weekends with the Truck Series. And I heard they were trying to make it a positive that Rajah Caruth, the driver in the Truck Series, he may run some races in that 42 car too the rest of the season that Hocevar is not in, just to get him some experience, some seat time. And because everybody knows that ride it's not a race 21. He's not going to jump in, and there's not any pressure there. So a lot of moving pieces behind the scenes at play right now.
Well, we will at some point, I'm not sure when, we might just wait till the end of the season and then we'll put together an early look at 2024 drivers, because once the season's over with their ridiculous, again, something else that eventually hopefully they will fix, which we've beat to death, the ridiculousness of free agency during the season. So once they get that fixed, or before they get that fixed, this is the way it is. So when the regular season's over, we know 99% of who's going to be where next year? Or is it more like 90%?
More, I'd say 95 on the top level teams. We're still waiting on Almirola. And I guess while we're noting driver change, McDowell and Gillen got extensions. They're back with Front Row Motorsports. That happened last week. That takes their names
McDowell
off the boards.
And who?
Todd Gillen, the 38 car. They'll be back. Usually they wait till wintertime before we know their driver lineup.
Was that after McDowell won?
That was before.
Oh,
and
good luck.
So the only thing with that is Zane Smith, who's been pretty well in that car. Truck Series, defending champion, chance to win the championship this year, kind of opens him up to look for elsewhere, because there's no sense for him to come back for a fourth or fifth year, whatever it is, in the Truck Series. He's good enough. I don't know if the Xfinity Series does him well, and there's not really Cup seats open. I mean, Almirola is kind of the next domino to fall. And then the rest, I mean, Penske set, Hendrick set, Gibbs now set. So the big Stuart Haas, other than Preece and Almirola and what they're doing, you got Josh Berry coming in, Briscoe staying. They're pretty well set after that. And then front row is even set. So there's not really much else.
He's like, he's the last kind of name that needs a Cup seat.
Yes.
Zane Smith.
Yeah.
Okay.
Zane. It's just there's not many places for him to go. That's the other thing. It's like you don't want to just go to a Cup seat just to go to a Cup seat.
Oh, yeah. You can see all sorts of bad results for decisions like that. Okay. Yep. So let's start. Well, actually, one more thing, and that is our viewer comments, because last week we mentioned Wayne Billow. I think that's how to pronounce Wayne's name. We talked about how he mentioned, or we had mentioned his comment first time we had saw it. So we weren't really sure how long he'd been watching us. He said, great review, thanks. So we weren't sure if he had subscribed, liked, shared, kind of threw that in there. And then he came back, yes, said he subscribed the show, loves the show, wouldn't miss it. He's from Canada. Not sure why he threw that in there, but maybe he's just a proud Canadian. And then because
I like it. You're probably gonna get a Cup race up there next year. I heard too there. So little hint coming.
Okay.
So yep.
So, and I mentioned it, how my dream scenario to end my personal and professional career would be to move to Vancouver and get season tickets to the Canucks and live out my days in a beautiful part of the country. And then he said he's from Ontario, east of Toronto, so not from Vancouver. So anyway, Matt Bokenfuso also commented, great content as always. That was following our show, I believe, last week. So that wraps up all our house cleaning prior to our preview. Now, is this still the Go Bowling at the Glen, or is this the annual Go Bowling at the Glen?
It's another go bowling at the Glen again. So they're the I'm assuming at some point we're going to see Eric Almirola rolling a bowling ball down the and knocking some pins down at some point in the track, because they do seem to do that every year. So it's probably coming at some point this week.
Okay. Actually, before we talk about that, the race itself last week. So let's do that first. So I got ahead of myself. Not that there was a lot to talk about, but this was really the weirdest. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, I'm working and I'm looking, and it's like I'm noticing something that nothing had really been changing. Nothing. No stops. The same drivers through the green flag pit stops. Pretty much the same. Everything's the same. Nothing's what is going on? And then late in the race, I had to text you to find out, since you were there, was there even a caution in the race? And you had to remind me about the Logano incident early on, which, again, when it happens 3 laps in, it's like there's no caution. It's like still, that didn't mean it didn't do anything to the race. They end the race so early, like an hour before, that they just did all sorts of weird, like, interviews, and they milked their post-race. They had an hour to fill. Yeah. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, it had to be like the fastest race I've ever seen or heard of. And I'm not sure has there ever been a race that has had less caution time in it in the Cup Series?
It's been since I heard 2012 was the last time we had one caution in a race, but it wasn't run that fast. I mean, this was a truly fast race. And yeah, I knew that the TV window, which I'm about to text you back about trying to do a video, because there were so many drivers out there. I think we interviewed probably 10, 12, 15 drivers, because they had them all out on pit road.
Okay.
Because I knew there must have been a wide enough TV window still left, because every driver, I mean, we're going to 10th, 11th place talking. I mean, usually it's like the top 5 and everybody's trying to hurry to get out of there. I'm like, there must be a wide TV window, because there's a lot of drivers out here, and they were directed to stay out there because NBC needed to fill some time.
Yes.
And everybody were walking up to him like, here comes the TV camera. And for those that may not know, TV comes first. So if you're talking to a driver, I mean, you kind of got TV comes first, radio second, and then they can talk to anybody in the media after that. So it's like your mid combo, and you see him coming the corner of your eye. I'm like, they must really be stretching for time here, or trying to spread some time out here, because why are they coming to interview him? It just, I mean, it was there. Anybody and everybody's out there, but they were guided to stay out there because obviously the drivers want to be interviewed on TV, because that's sponsor time and all that jazz talked about. So I knew there had to be something up. I didn't know you kind of get the free for all once the race is over. You don't really look at what time it is. You're just trying to gather information and data. And I'm like, I'm not sure what time it is, but I'm sure this race ended quick, and a little over 2 hours. And it goes to show they can do it without these stage breaks. And I get it. Some people probably at home, they were like, well, that wasn't worth it. But I think the right guy won. I think it showed outright speed. We talked about this on the show last week, how I warned this could be spread out. This restart zone may all be for naught, because there may not be many restarts. And there was one, and they had 77 straight laps from the green flag restart to the checkered flag, and they just clocked them away. And it's, as you said, strategy, which we get into this week, but the top 4 finishers all qualified in the top 4. I mean, they were all.
When there's no cautions,
No, and they were the fastest cars for a reason.
They were the fastest cars,
I like the fact you didn't have those fluke guys in the end at 12th, and I feel like I should be in the lead, so I'm going to go from 12th to 5th. And then it takes guys out up front that have earned the right to be there. So I thought it was more of a pure race. So, I mean, McDowell winning, talked to him, and plenty of good storylines out of that. I mean, front row was out of like 1,200 starts, they've won 3 races. And McDowell, he's won 1 career win. And the one win, his family wasn't there because it's during COVID. And this is the first race he's won that his family's actually at the track. And then he got his crew chief, who was like, hey, why do you keep taking a chance on these veteran crew chiefs? Give me a shot. And McDowell tested him and at his lunch meeting, and he's like, because you have to do so much more with so much less at this place. And He goes, I realize since I've got a lot to say who I want as a crew chief that I'll be honest, I'm going to piss the guy off. I'm going to be rude to this guy. I'm going to set him on edge because if he caves and agrees with everything with me, then this isn't the guy that I need on my pit pops.
Yeah.
I need somebody that's just as fiery. And that paid off. And this guy, he's expecting a family. His wife was pregnant, due any day now. They win the race. I mean, just so many cool stories that if you go with these stage breaks and there's too much more that could happen that somebody else would have won. And even at the end, you get Chase Elliott still. I mean, it was a close, tight-knit battle. If not for the pit stop with Suarez, you probably have a three-man fight to the finish at the end there. And that's even without any caution. So I think it played out well. I think it was a pure race, which goes to show the picks. I mean, we talked about McDowell last week. He's a great
both had him.
Yep. And a fluke didn't take him out. Nope. Nothing took him out at the end. So it goes to show it could happen. I liked it, and I'm curious this week. There's closer walls around this track than what Indy, but it also has the effect that this could be a clean week too.
Well, what does McDowell's win do as far as the playoffs are concerned?
Changes a lot. Granted, it's not like he's undeserving too, because he's 16th in points. So it still goes back to what we talked about a couple weeks ago, that there's nobody outside the top 16 in the standings that has won a race. So it's still a top 16 no matter how you look at it. But what it did was it took Bubba Wallace. He was plus 58 entering Indy. And because McDowell won and put himself in, that took a spot away, it bumps everything down one. He lost 30 points. Chase Elliott, he went from 55 down, gets a season best, tied for season best finish, second, good stage points. He lost 35 points just in the standings last week by finishing runner-up. Suarez went from 5 down to 28 down.
Elliott.
It changes a lot to where now, other than Suarez, it's pretty much Suarez versus Wallace for that last spot, because we know that you're going to have a wild card spot in because there's 2 races left. Even if you get 2 new winners, you still have 1 wild card spot left.
Okay.
So
there's only 3 drivers that don't have a win.
Yep.
Okay. That's Harvick, Keselowski, and Bubba.
Which the key to watch, Keselowski's only 2 points behind Harvick right now. And where this is key is, let's say Bubba wins. Let's say Bubba wins Daytona, and I'm just going to say Chase Elliott, for lack of a better driver, let's just say he wins this weekend. That final spot there's a 2-point gap right now between
Harvick and Keselowski.
Yeah. So those 2 are not as good as they once thought they were a few weeks ago.
Well, this is the big week, really. This is the one that sets everything up for that. Yeah. If Suarez or Elliott were to win.
Yep. So Gibbs. Or Gibbs, yep. Because AJ. Now those two are fighting for points now. When a few weeks ago it didn't look like they were fighting for points at all. But now it's to the point those 2 are battling. They got their own little battle. Suarez and Wallace have their own little battle, because those 2, one spot's going through to the playoffs. So those 2 are in that battle. And then everybody else just has to win. So for them, as weird as it sounds, it's probably easier. They don't have to worry about stage points. You don't have to worry about – you just position yourself to get a win. That's all that really matters for the rest of those guys.
So so Suarez can't get in unless he wins?
No, Suarez, he'd be the only one.
He's the only one that can get in without a win.
Yeah, Gibbs is kind of on that threshold. He technically could. And so could Elliott and Bowman and Allmendinger.
I mean, because there's 100. Help,
yeah, there's 108 points available, but you look how many points they're out. They're going to have to pass. It's not going to happen. But Suarez and Wallace are your 2, probably the only 2 that can point their way in. So it's a battle between them and with everybody else going for the win. But I think an interesting factor is Chase and Bowman are both 80 points out. They both have to win. There's 2 races left in the regular season. If one of them doesn't win this weekend, who would have thought Hendrick Motorsports is going to go to the playoffs without the full fleet in the postseason? Because they both have to win. If one of them doesn't win on Sunday, there's one of them's going home in the playoffs. And that's a wild thing to think about. And Bowman think of this factor. He was penalized 60 points for that but back in Richmond, remember? He'd be 20 points down right now,
And what was that for?
not 80. The hood, the greenhouse, or the lid, him and Byron both. Chase Elliott, look at the points. Think of the race that he got suspended. Let's not count the races he missed from his injury. Just take the one that he was suspended. Let's just say he finishes top 10. Cut that down to 40, probably about he's probably 40 or some down. Bowman would be 20 down. So they self-inflicted themselves.
They got nobody to blame but themselves.
No, but I think it helps. I think it's a big storyline. I think it actually helps that one of those guys is probably not going to make it in.
It could be two of them.
Yep. Very well could. I mean, if Chase doesn't win, we know Hendrick. I looked out of the last 15 or 16 Daytona starts, Hendrick's won one.
Yeah, this is it. This is it for Elliott. This is a shot. He doesn't win this week, I think he's done.
Yep. That's why his futures are coming way down now. I think even Vegas is starting to see something. Only like 22-1 this week or something like that.
Yeah, right now he is 22-1.
Yeah.
Along with Keselowski. Gibbs is 40-1. And Bowman is 100-1. And so Suarez. I'm a little surprised McDowell's 130-1.
Yeah, because you look at I wrote about this. McDowell very well could get to the round of 8. I mean, we know what he can do on road courses, clearly. The Roval and Talladega, we know what he can do on super speedways. The Roval and Talladega are in the round of 12. If he can get out of this first round, he could win one of those two races, and he's in the round of 8.
Yes. It does.
And you're at that point, I'm making enemies, and I'm apologizing later because you've got Martinsville sitting there that he's going to get Fords. He's going to get the best engine. He's going to get the best cars. You get to the round of 8, he's a Penske car. He's a top Ford car. So, he's a sleeper right now. I'm not going to say he's going to go jump out and win the championship, but
130-1.
I mean, you never know what could happen. We've wondered this in years. What if the top 2-3 drivers in Phoenix, what if they take each other out? He's right there. He could win by default at some point. So it's definitely worth watching.
All right. So and we're still kind of juggling things with our fantasy situation, because I think in the last, I don't know, like 10 or 11 races, we've had all these like little streaks. Not that I have a streak yet. I've only had back-to-back wins, but because I didn't win the first week when Buescher won for me. But you guys, you of course dominated early. CJ was way back, put that streak together to get in front. Now he's cooled off a little bit, and I've got back to a 2-race win streak, but you're now back in the lead. And things have, I was able to grab 100 points on you last week, and I'm still, how far back am I still? I'm probably still let me see.
It's up on my site right
40.
Now. 40, yeah.
Yeah, I'm still 40. Let me see. You would have it under,
go to the top
under NASCAR, right?
Well, just click on Prime. No, just go on Prime Sports NASCAR podcast, and it'll be right. Just click on that and be your first one.
Let's see. All right, so it's 40. CJ's 150 back. And there you go. Logano, Hamlin, Bell, and Harvick. Wallace trying to get in. Bowman trying to get in. Keselowski and Suarez trying to get in. You got all those half your team trying to get in.
Yep, which bodes well for these next 2 weeks. I mean, Suarez, I was borderline. I'm dropping this guy to – he could make him more into the playoffs.
Yeah.
It just shows you how wild this season's gone. So I resign to the fact I'm just leaving him alone. There's a reason they're all there. I'm just going to leave him alone.
And then you see CJ's team he's got the most wins. He's got 10, but it's these guys here.
Yep.
Elliott, we know the damage he put in, but these 4 really have hurt him. AJ, Gibbs, Dillon, and Priest.
Yeah, because he could look up, which that's why my strategies last 2 years as playoff drivers, he could look up and 5 of his 8 won't be in the playoffs.
I mean, look at that.
And we know in playoffs, yeah.
3 of the top 4 drivers, and he's in 3rd.
Yep. It goes to show those other guys where consistency, top 10s are what we're noticing that it's going to.
Even in ours.
Yep. I mean, because you got to have the depth. It's about a team. That's what it is. It's a true team. And you got to have that whole team, the whole complement of drivers. And yeah, even I guess go back up to his, because even let's just say let's just say Allmendinger and Elliott win. I think that still leaves 3 guys off. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4,
Priest ain't
5
getting
right
in.
now.
Dylan ain't getting in.
Priest definitely ain't getting in.
So he's got Elliott, AJ, and Gibbs trying to get in.
Yep, he'll know this week if about one of them. So if neither of those 2 win this week, then yeah, because go up to your team. I think you've got several that we know are in. McDowell's in. Stenhouse is in.
I don't know why I must have left that.
Oh, your whole team other than Cindric.
Yeah, I got to fill that in there. Stenhouse has a win. So. Yep. Yeah, I only have one guy that doesn't have a win on there. Oh, I know why, but didn't put on there because I didn't get the win while he wasn't on my team at the time.
Oh, you didn't have but he's in the playoffs now. Yeah, that's why. Yeah, you didn't have him in Daytona. So yeah, like your whole team basically is.
If Cindric wins this week,
he could win Daytona too, though. Yeah.
So
and I think most of mine, other than Keselowski, should. I mean, unless something funny happens. I mean, right now, all mine but Bowman, right?
What's that?
And Suarez. So I'm going to have 1 or 2 out.
Yeah, Harvick will probably get in.
Harvick should, Keselowski should, unless you get something crazy going on. And then it's down to Wallace and Suarez for that last. And Bowman's
and
probably.
I think and I could see one of those 3 getting in. So.
Yeah. Well, and Bowman, even if he doesn't make it, that's a Hendrick car that's not in the playoffs. That's my anchor. I'm good with that.
Okay, so let's finally get around to talking about this week. And how many do you think we all agreed upon?
Gosh, probably not many, because these odds are not good this week. I'm going to say 2, 3, maybe at the most.
None.
Oh, wow. 0.
You and I, we usually have picks together, 0. So, and the reason is we went the exact different strategy, which is I decided, I got to tell you, I came this close actually to putting everything on Elliott.
It's funny you say that. I almost did too. And then I just did not like the 3-1. I did not like that number that they.
I know they're killing us with the 3-1. Now I don't know. I got to check Bovada to see if they've got 4-1 on there, but it's possible other sports books don't have 3-1.
I almost did too, and I was like, well. Do I want to put my eggs all in the one basket of the guy? Granted, there is every sign out there that he could win this race. Every sign out there. But I feel good with Larson. I feel good with Truex. I feel good with Reddick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You basically decided, I'm going to take 4 against 1.
Yep.
And I went the opposite.
I played the numbers game.
I went with half on Elliott, and you did the 4, Larson, Truex, Reddick, and McDowell. And those were your 4. Those are your picks. That's it.
That's it. Yeah, that's the good thing about being at the track. You can see the mannerisms, you can see the speed, you can see what people are saying. You can talk. It's because I thought, do I go with more sleepers? And no, after seeing it in person and 2 road courses in a row, you kind of know what you got. Granted, Indy and Watkins Glen are 2 different tracks, but they are 2 road courses. It is a package, and you can start seeing some trends and themes going on here. And I tried with Allmendinger, and I realized 12-1 was not a good number for a guy that literally, when he was so dejected last week at Indy, talking to him on Saturday, we got no speed. And any plans for a standby driver with your wife pregnant, they should have a standby driver for me already because I suck. Basically, is what he said. They don't even need me in the car. And then he just had a dismal rate. I mean, it's just like, I don't see you going from that to winning in a
No.
week. It's too much.
Who knows?
And
Maybe so he's still waiting for the kid to be born?
I think if the kid, I'm assuming his wife's going to get induced this week.
Hey, maybe that'll be what he needs to go out and, that could be an interesting storyline. But in his races this year on road courses, he only has one top 10.
Yep, he is 19th in road course points.
That
does not merit 12-1 to me.
No. Last week was 16-1. That's what he said. That's where he belonged. And now they're putting him back to 12.
Yeah, I don't like how they did the odds I mean, they just grouped like, hey, here's some favorites pretty much all in an umbrella, and here's some guys that don't deserve to be at these odds. Well, they just are. It almost seems like the odds makers just kind of half-assed this week's odds.
Elliott should not be 3-1. I mean, that's just
no.
If Chase was having a regular Chase season, he would be 3-1.
Yeah,
and they're basically
that's why I didn't take him.
Forgiving everything that's been going on, forgiving the fact that he hasn't really contended very much, and just said, "Yeah, still 3-1."
Yeah, it's just like they didn't bait anybody into betting anything. This would be one race that I would bet like top 3s and top 5s than an outright, just because they did a poor job on grouping these drivers together.
McDowell down to 10-1.
10-1. It's like, goodness gracious.
Yeah. He was 28 last week.
Yeah. And he's 10-1. And it's just, in Reddick, I like his chances, but 8-1? It's like, I went with them just because I feel good about him, but 8-1 for a guy that just, in his road course, spent 33rd, 28th. 4th and 1st. I mean, those are his finishes this year.
Yeah, this is not
8-1.
Yeah, after winning COTA, everything has changed. I mean, he was okay last week, but yeah, he wasn't like the top 3.
No, I just can't. I honestly thought when this was going to open, I thought Elliott would be the favorite, but more like 5 or 6-1. Larson maybe 7-1. Probably Truex.
Yeah, Truex would be there
9-1.
Yeah.
Reddick 10-1, 11. But they just threw these guys. Well, it's just like, man, what were they thinking? Are you trying not to get people to bet on this race? I don't know what they were thinking, but they did not do a good job on putting these odds out. That's for sure.
Yeah, Elliott, yes, dominated 2 wins right off the bat, but the last 2 years has not won at Watkins Glen and led 29 laps in the 2 races. 29-0 last year. So it's not like he dominated the last 2 years, anything like he did the first 2 years, and he's having his worst year. And he's 3-1. Larson is the back-to-back champ, but he only led 5 laps last year and 27 the year before that. So he didn't dominate the way Elliott did the first 2 years. So we've had the 4 straight Hendrick winners, Elliott back-to-back, Larson back-to-back, but Elliott clearly dominated a lot easier than Larson has the last 2. But Larson, at least, it was okay last week. And you mentioned Truex has a win, but that was 2017. 23rd last year with the new car, even though, of course, things have changed for Truex after the Sonoma win. But let's remember, that's why we talked about it last week when he was the favorite at 4-1. It's sort of like what we're talking about Elliott. In a way, it's like Truex, wait a second. Okay, he did really good at Sonoma, but you had him at 25-1 there or 30-1, and then he's nothing at Chicago and really didn't do much at all. He was top 10 last week. He wasn't a top 5 car. So I don't know. So all of a sudden I look at it and he's not a dominating road course driver this year.
Not at all. And that's what kind of the only reason I even took Truex. I do think he's a solid play for like a top 5 if you can find him. I know he was plus 180 for a top 3. It was the trend wise is alternating. He was 3rd to 7th and then 2nd to 7th. So the trend says he's going to win. And he's had good finishes at Watkins Glen. 5 straight top 10s, 4 of which in the top 3 until last year. So He dominated Sonoma. He's got speed. I just didn't get a feel like he had good enough race winning speed here at
Yeah.
Indy last week. And that's the only thing that struck me. I'm like, I don't think he's got the speed, but it's the trends and he's good there. So I rolled the dice with where he was. But Elliott, I even looked too. He's led 8 laps on road courses this year, 8 total. All season, he's led 39 total laps. That's it, 39 laps. He should not be 3-1 leading 39 laps. That's the one. That's why it's like that just does not sit well with me for a guy that's led 39 laps all week to just jump into, oh yeah, let's put him at 3-1.
Yeah.
And Truex, Truex I struggled with, but at the end of the day, I do think trends and Larson, he's trending better. I mean, Watkins Glen his last 4, 6th, 8th, 1st, and 1st, so he's won the last 2. Jeff Gordon, Mark Martin, those are the only 2 drivers to win back-to-back at Watkins Glen. So
No one's
the
ever
odds
won
are
3
not
straight?
on his side. Yeah, or 3 straight. Yeah, back-to-back-to-back.
Oh, they have. Okay.
There's the only 2 that won. Yeah, they're the only 2 that won 3 straight. So those aren't good odds. Saying there's only 2 drivers ever that have done it. But he does have 7 top 10 finishes of his last 10 of the season. He had a top 5 car at Indy. He overshot turn 12 and had to do a stop and go in that corner, which dropped him from 5th to 10th, and he just couldn't make it back up. So we know he's faster. We know Hendrick's faster. And I feel like with him and Elliott, I just feel like they're so similar. You're getting 5-1 on one and 3-1 on the other. You better as well go with the 5-1 and pick more drivers than roll the dice with the others. So, but I just think you could put a blanket over Larson and Truex. Just could go either way.
And what we said before, this is such a significant qualifying racetrack. You go back, the first race was 1957. It's 39 races. And 79% of the winners started in the top 7. Yeah. 79. It's 31 of 39. And 66% in the top 5, 33% in the top 2. That's 1/3 top 2. And then you have 10 pole sitters is 25.6%. The last 5 started in the top 2 rows. So the farthest back anyone's ever won was 18th. That's it. So qualifying comes, you're outside the top 18, forget it. Save your money. I would even save your money if you're outside the top 10. I mean, why even risk it? It just doesn't happen very often. And
especially too, like we talked a little bit ago, Indy, the top 4 finished in the top 4, and without the stage breaks, you're taking the strategy of, well, we'll just pit before the stage break. You're taking that all out.
Yeah.
This race has a chance to be clean and green for a long time because of that, because you got guys that are just going to settle in. And with that said, the faster cars are going to find their way to the front. And if they're already at the front, unless they screw up in the pits, how are they going to go backwards? So yeah, qualifying is going to be a huge, huge play this weekend. And I also have it right here. The road course on stage points. I mean, Sonoma, Chicago, Indy, the last 3, the driver that won finished 2nd, 3rd, and 1st in the first stage. And the stage 2, even if you want to go to Coda, they finished 1st, 7th, 4th, 2nd. So if they're up front, it's going to be hard to push them back. So I think at the start of the race, the track position is going to be key. So if you got somebody starting well outside the top 10, you probably want to fade them this week.
I mean, that's why it's going to be one of those things where you have to decide whether to put money on before or after qualifying, because I mean, if it's Elliott, you're definitely waiting. You can't get worse than 3-1, depending on what you're really getting at the sports book. There's no way you'd even worry about that. I mean, what are they going to make him even money if he's on the pole? I mean, then just save your money. I don't know. Maybe Reddick and Truex, you could lose money if they're on the pole and they qualify and they practice, really good. Maybe you lose a little bit there. But yeah, I don't think much else. It's just those top guys. Now, I did put 28 on Suarez. So he's my big money one this week. And I'm just going to gamble that he's got this little run going now again, and he's good on the road courses. 5th last year, 3rd last week, 3 top 5s out of 5 at Watkins Glen. I mean, I wish I had better than 11-1, but it is what it is. And I really think that's unless you go all out and just put all your money, if you're investing, like we just said, if you want to put $100 all on just one of those top 4 drivers or 5 drivers, guys like maybe McDowell, Suarez. I mean, that's probably the 2 guys outside that top 4. Those are probably the 2 guys that are talented enough to win on the road course, and you're getting decent odds. That combination.
That's it. Yeah, because everybody else, I don't see a path of them winning. I just don't. It's just hard to think that somebody's going to outright win. Those guys are just so good. Like I said, Suarez, I didn't like 11-1. I mean, he's been 28-1 and 35-1 all year. Now you put him 11-1. But top 5 there last year. He qualified 9th, qualified on the pole last week. He was 6th at Michigan. You just got to think that they're going to want to make up for that pit road problem at Indy. So you got to take them.
And they know this is it. This is their shot.
Yeah. Busher, I think, is a solid sleeper.
Who's that?
I take him because I don't – Busher.
Busher again.
8th, 4th, 10th, 11th, these tracks this season. I mean, he's a top 10 type of guy. 5th most points accumulated on road courses. 9 straight top 11s. But is he going to beat those guys? That's tough to say. Logano would probably be your longest shot that you even want to. I almost took a look at him. He was 3rd last year. He was 3rd in Sonoma. But it's about it. But he's also 45-1. And like I said last week, a lot of times when Logano's those longer odds, he finds a way to win. But then he didn't at Indy. I mean, he was
out early.
They were terrible.
Yeah.
Penske's even if he didn't get caught up in that early incident with Haley and then get spun after that on that restart, I still don't think he had much. I mean, the Fords, other than McDowell, had really nothing. I mean, McDowell was it of the Ford camp. Everybody else just didn't really see him much up front. And Hamlin, his path's
he's tricky because, I mean, 20-1, it's okay. 4 top 5s out of his last 6 at Watkins Glen with a win. And he's led 18 laps in his entire career there, and have all come in the last 6. So I put a few bucks on him to make my money back. And I did the same. I put a few bucks on Gibbs, a few bucks on Cindric, a couple bucks on Briscoe, a few bucks on Keselowski, and even a couple of bucks on Jones at 150-1 because the guy has 4 top 10s in 5 races there.
Yep, good track for him. Denny's the one, because we talk a lot, obviously we should. Nobody's really talking much about the regular season championship, the regular season points.
Yeah.
And Hamlin's like 60 points out. He's still got a shot, but he knows, look, I'm not catching Truex. I'm going to have to make up points on him, and I don't think that happening this week. And that's why last week, if you notice, because people were wondering, like, what's he doing?
Oh, you mean the stage points?
Running the stage.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's not after stage points. He's after stage wins. And he saw a path that I'm going to take a playoff point. That's all he's after. I think this first 2 stages on Sunday, he doesn't care about the win. I think he knows speed-wise, we don't have the speed to beat those
guys. Well, unless he qualifies well.
That would be a different story. Yeah. But if you see him probably 10th on back, Hamlin, because this is what he's after. If the regular season champion has 15 playoff points, that's what they get. So Truex is in the path to get 15 more playoff points. He has 20 right now, so it'd be 35. Hamlin's got 14. Second place gets 10 playoff points. So there's a 5-point gap between that. So Hamlin's philosophy is, like last week, if I can make up that 5-point gap by getting stage wins. I'm getting playoff point per stage win. So Indy, his thought was, I got a 5-point gap. Now it's 4 because I got a stage win. I think this week he's going to try to get a couple more out of the way. And his philosophy behind that is, I got knocked out by Ross Chastain by 1 point last year for a last-second move.
Yeah.
That one playoff point, that one stage win somewhere could have made sure that didn't happen. Maybe Indy is that part. Maybe that stage one he just pulled to where he was nothing all day. He just got that one stage point, advances him in around the playoffs. That's how he's looking at it. So that's why I thought this week, even at that number, I'm like, I don't think he's after a race win. I mean, he'll take it. Don't get me wrong.
Again, it's
but
all a part of qualifying. That's it.
It
Just
is.
See how these guys qualify, and if Hamlin's inside the top 5, then yeah, maybe he goes for it early. Why not?
I mean, he qualified 22nd last year there, but we know Toyotas were down. But before that, pole in 2018, 6th in 2019, 6th in 2021.
Yeah.
So he can qualify well there.
Yep.
But there's a stretch before that where he was 10th, 37th, 36th, or I'm sorry, that's finishing. 14th, 42nd, 23rd, 20th, 17th, 13th. So he has a tendency to also not qualify good there too.
And I wouldn't put any money on him before qualifying. I can't imagine, even if he were to poll it, that, I mean, what are you going to do with Denny Hamlin's number?
I don't think it goes much to 14 to 1,
so.
15 to 1.
Maybe.
Yeah. If he's at 20 to 1, the most they would do is cut in half to 10 to 1.
And that's still a halfway decent number, yeah. So
yeah, I don't think you go from 20 to 1 to 5 to 1. I think that would be negligent. That'd be way negligent on their part. So I agree. I think you wait on him. I mean, Chase Elliott, his qualifying since 2017, 4th, 3rd, 1st, 11th, 1st. So you know he's probably going to start strong. Kyle Larson since 2015, 6th, 2nd, 2nd, 5th, 5th, 4th, 2nd.
Yeah.
So you probably know those two are starting up front. So you might as well grab them now. And if they start up front, then their odds just increase dramatically. I mean, Elliott was in row 2 and Larson was in row 3 last week at Indy. So we know the speed's there.
Yeah, I went with some of the other long shots like Gibbs. He has an Xfinity win in 21. He led 68 laps in 2 races in Xfinity Series. And, you know, it's been a good run for him. He's got 4 straight top 15s. I believe that's his best run since 4 straight top 10s early on in the season. He's 25 to 1. Cindric, we know Cindric can race well on the road courses. We know it hasn't been a good year for Cindric and all that. But the last couple have been okay. And actually his best finishes have still been on the road courses this year and the street course. So, and he has a win in the Xfinity Series as well at Watkins Glen in 2019. And then Briscoe, well, look, I mean, he had a decent finish last week, and he's got all his guys back again, and he's doing a little bit better. I mean, that stretch he had when everybody was gone was abysmal. So at least now, you know, he's been okay at Watkins Glen. Matter of fact, he hasn't qualified in the top 10 in either race. So if he qualifies in the top 10, he could be dangerous, considering that's maybe the last step. And he's 50 to 1. And Kozlowski was really the most interesting, because if you look at it, he had 3 straight runner-ups at Watkins Glen from 2011 to 2013. And in the Xfinity Series, he had 10 races there. 9 of them were in the top 10, 6 top 5s, and a win. So he has good experiences at Watkins Glen. This might be his best road course, even though he hasn't won here. But we are talking 65 to 1, and we know how good the Kozlowski-Buescher team has been this year. So
yeah, and I think for him and Harvick, those two they've struggled lately on road courses that they're in a little points game themselves that I think stage points, they've got to run up front, because that could be a difference. That's
the thing. You know, how do you qualify? Again, if they both qualify outside the top 10, you know their strategy is going to be.
Yeah, and the 2021 pole sitter was Brad Keselowski.
Oh, okay. And when did he finish, though? He didn't have a good result, did he?
35th.
Yeah.
Led 9 laps, but he's 35th. Harvick qualified 5th that year.
Something must have happened. Okay, so last road course of the regular season. And so your top pick, if you only had one pick, now I know you spread it out, Larson, Truex, Reddick, McDowell. If you had just one pick, all right, and you can do anybody. Anybody, start from scratch, one pick. You're at the window. You have $100. You can put $100 on one driver. Who are you putting that $100 on?
I'm gonna say Larson.
Going for the three-peat.
Three-peat. Yep. they always say you're the champion or till defending champion, whatever.
Yeah.
Till the night. Yep. So I'm gonna stick with it. I just feel he's been too good there. His finishes have been a lot better. I mean, you take Denny getting into him at Pocono and Atlanta. We know what he does at Atlanta. Those aren't good tracks for him. So if you go all the way back to early June, 4th, 8th, 5th, 4th, take Atlanta out. 3rd, Pocono was front row. Would have been top 2. Then top 5s. And last week it was 8th, but he should have been top 5, like you said. So I just feel like as long as he has the speed, which he's had, and this is going to be a speed track, I've just got to go with him.
All right. And then you just see here, you could check out, I'll leave some links in the description area for some of Eric's stories, including, of course, his top preview of the race here. So you can check that out. So we'll have some of those links for NASCAR. Also, we've got the fantasy team information and the futures, which will be in later in the week.
Yep.
So, matter of fact, future-wise, Truex is still the favorite there at 4-1. And as far as anything sticking out, again, Blaney still 14-1. Busher now has come down to 15-1. So
we called that. I think we said that, didn't we? I think we said 15-1.
And he keeps dropping. Harvick is still 20-1.
Yeah,
but that's probably because he's still not in the playoffs yet, I guess.
No, but I mean, if he does, like I said, we've seen now what Ford. They've won 3 in a row now. Ford's starting to turn it around, and I just keep saying, if Harvick gets to Phoenix, we know what he can do at Phoenix. He's got like 9 or 10 wins there, for crying out loud. This is the last start, and I think a notable thing. I guess I should have said this as a notable earlier. He let it slip in his press conference on Saturday, which I think makes his recent finishes even more impressive. He's got cracked ribs. He said he fell down the stairs when he was Kevin Harvick. When he was his son Keelan races like go-karts, and he was over in Italy running and racing, and Harvick slipped and fell down the stairs and cracked his ribs. And so you think this guy's been racing with cracked ribs, and his results they're pretty good for racing like that. So
interesting.
Ford can continue to.
When did this happen?
June, in the off week between.
How long does that take to heal then?
I think he's pretty close to being healed, he said.
Okay.
But if you look at his finishes, you could tell where it was bothering the most, because you could tell right Sonoma, and that there's like 3 races there where he didn't do anything, and then he started picking back up again. So the fact that he's doing what he did with cracked ribs, that more power to him. That's impressive.
Yeah, maybe that's a sign that healthier he gets, the more dangerous he's going to be. So, all right, next week we'll preview Daytona. Week after that, our playoff preview special. CJ will be with us, so we'll have a lot of fun there on that show. And maybe if we schedule it far enough in advance, maybe we do a live show. So,
yeah, I was going to say that. So, yeah, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, so we'll try to figure that all out. We'll let you know on next week's show about playoff show possibility of live, and, of course, the Daytona live possibilities. Maybe we'll have a little bit better weather forecast on Tuesday. Hopefully we're doing a Tuesday show.
Yeah, hopefully there's no IndyCar press conferences or Zoom calls
or weather delays, and we're racing at Watkins Glen on Monday.
Yes, that too. Yeah, we're not wasting on Monday. Yes, that too.
Let's keep our fingers crossed for that. So we'll see everybody. Don't forget Discord. You can communicate with us anytime between this show and next week's show, and then check out racereviewonline.net. Eric, appreciate it.
Thank you.